Good evening. It's another tournament in a TeaBreak. I'm Ros Satar.
And George Bellshaw.
And it's a little bit of a break from the norm because there's still actually play going on. And this time we're actually sat on two chairs with the microphone in the middle where the photographers sit because you can't actually find anywhere quiet enough to do the podcast. And we've got a bunch of people that are looking at us very strangely in the lift. Yeah, okay. Yes, we're talking on the mic. Yeah, that's great. Wave at the earthlings. Okay, let's crack on. It's been that kind of a day, really, hasn't it? Well, what can we say about the last match that we've just seen, which was, of course, Rafael Nadal beating Diego Schwartzman. But not just beating Diego Schwartzman. No siree. He broke John McEnroe's 34-year-old record of the longest set streak in history. So, how do we feel about that versus how does he feel about that?
I'm very impressed. It's very, very difficult to win that many sets in a row, as is proven by the fact no one else has done it. So, there's obviously a slight asterisk by it in terms of Rafa's career and why he's maybe not done this during the time when the likes of Roger and Novak have been playing. Those guys he's not met at the peak of their powers in this run, but you just can't take anything away from him. If you think about every day you turn up to work and don't feel 100% and maybe make a slight slip up or something, this guy's he's barely dropped in the games. He's not been in a single tie break in this time. It's just unfathomable how incredible that is, really, regardless who he's playing.
Yeah, it is a record, and I think I made a sardonic comment once when Roger Federer beat some record, and I thought, well, it's getting rather tedious with all these records since the times when dinosaurs held rackets in their teeny tiny paws. But you do raise an interesting point that with the draw pretty much blown open today, Rafa is going to get himself to the final without really having faced much in the way of opposition. Thiem is actually probably going to be the strongest opposition he's faced, certainly this week.
Yeah, Thiem, I don't think is at the level he was at last year, and he said that himself. The injury coming into this has maybe lost him a bit of consistency or time to get ready properly. But Thiem probably right now remains the best clay courter outside of Rafa, apart from Kyle Edmund, of course.
And we'll come on to Kyle in a little while.
I'd say Zverev is probably the other guy you'd look at in either side of the draw who's got the big game experience of winning a clay title. Yeah. Which actually has Thiem. Yeah. He's not won a Masters title, but he's won.
He hasn't. He's won
clay titles, but Zverev's won a Masters title on clay, so we probably shouldn't discount him. He's going subtly under the radar, but yeah, Rafa Del Potro has gone out today. That's really disappointing.
Yeah.
Because it means Rafa's going to face one of Kevin Anderson or Dusan Lajovic in the quarterfinals, and hopefully Anderson, to be perfectly honest. I think Anderson can at least trouble him with a big serve. It'd be nice to see a really big server on these fast courts against Rafa and see how he deals with that. Someone who'll continue to bash the balls and take it to him. Because I think anyone who goes too tippy-tappy with Rafa is going to lose. He's just going to wear you down. And maybe Anderson will just be like, screw this, I'm just going to whack it, hit winners every single ball. And if he has one of those days, you never know.
Yeah, he can. That's the thing. He can have one of those days. But if memory serves you right, he did get somewhat brutalised in the US Open final. Although, before we came down, just on the subject of Thiem, fascinating fun fact, listeners. While Nadal owns teams behind 6-2, they've only ever met on clay. They've never met on any other surface.
There you go.
That's quite remarkable in this day and age, even allowing for the fact that Thiem's youngish in comparison. I think that's quite an interesting stat.
They were the only two guys to get to the fourth round of every single slam last year as well.
Yeah.
So it's not like they've not been particularly consistent compared to other guys. They've met quite a few times on clay, though, I imagine.
Yeah, well,
probably
eight in fact.
There we go.
It being a record of 6-2.
Is it 6-2?
Yep.
I can't even remember the second one. I thought it was 7-1.
Well, I wrote this down. I think it was Rome and Buenos Aires, I think.
Buenos Aires.
Were the two wins that Thiem got.
Wow.
So there you go.
Didn't even remember that.
Well, it's just I was literally writing it while you were telling me, I've got 1 minute and then we can go. Okay. The other news of the day, while Rafael Nadal, who was continues to look dominant, the person that we thought could not be beaten on the women's side, did, basically. I mean, we lost Simona Halep, the two-time defending champion. And what struck me when we went to Karolina Pliskova's press conference was she'd said in her previous press conference, I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at the French Open match and see if I can do anything different. What it turned out that she did differently was she just got some self-belief that she could actually beat Halep. And I mean, the power of a positive mind.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like to blow my trumpet too much, but I did say Pliskova could take a set.
I don't remember that at all.
And it caused some raised eyebrows from Miss Satar.
I don't remember that at all.
But in fairness, I did not say she would beat Halep, and I am surprised by that. But equally, Pliskova's played some really, really good stuff on clay. She won in Stuttgart. She's strolling through here, and I just think she looks so nonchalant the way she's just slapping these forehands past people. She looks hugely confident. She just seems to have a little more time to set up that forehand on clay, and even against the world's best defender on the women's side of the game, couldn't do anything about it. It's just too flat, too quick. These conditions, I think, suit her. I was really, really impressed. She becomes the favourite for me.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
What about going on to the French and stuff? I mean, I wouldn't have had Pliskova down as a semi-finalist last year. Yeah. And this year, now you kind of think, wow, if she can do that last year when she wasn't a great clay court player. No. She's playing really, really good stuff right now. Looks full of belief. Could be a surprise first Grand Slam for her.
Yep. I mean, I think a lot will depend on how she comes, because she's had quite a busy time. I mean, there was Fed Cup and then straight into Stuttgart. Then she pulled out of Prague wisely, I think. I know it's difficult for the Czechs. They really want to be able to have a tournament at home and really represent. And Petra Kvitova was telling us about how many people had turned out for the Prague International. They really do love their tennis. They're a great tennis-loving nation. But I think it was a wise decision of Pliskova, to pull out. I think that set her up well for the two premiers that are going to be setting the tone. I personally think that she's going to have a decent run here and then just not have a decent run in Rome. But that's okay, because that gives her time to go and get used to the conditions in Paris. Because I always see it as a kind of graduated step of progression. So Stuttgart's slick as hell. It's like an ice rink. It's indoor clay. It's not real clay, as Simona Halep continually told us. And I believe her, because I played on that stuff, and I swear to God, I could have done a routine that Torvill and Dean would have been proud of on that stuff. And then you come here, and it's proper clay, but it's altitude, so the ball fizzes about a lot. Then you go to Rome, and Rome and Paris are very similar. They're both obviously at sea level, and Rome, when it's hot, the ball flies. But as soon as that sun goes down, in the evening, it becomes very heavy and very claggy, and that's the same with Paris. So I think it'll be interesting to see how she copes with that change, because she's played a lot of heavy stuff on clay.
Yeah, and I think particularly in the women's draw rather than the men's, where Rafa you just expect to waltz everything at the minute. I think the scheduling could be quite important for Pliskova during that French Open. In certain matches, if she gets it during the day, hot, flying, she'll be a real force.
And the thing is, they probably will put her through the day, because we were discussing at dinner.
The Frenchies at night.
They'll put the Frenchies at night, and they'll put what they feel are the lesser known players, and for the benefit of the tape, it's like with inverted commas, in the day when they're not, and I think that's going to suit it down to the ground. But we also lost Maria Sharapova today. Now, she snapped her 4-match losing streak that dated all the way back to that pretty disappointing match, actually, that I thought in the Australian Open. I was expecting there to be real fireworks, and it was a real damp squib. But now, in hindsight, knowing about the eventual split with Sven, and what she said today in press about how she went through some very, very tough times, and you have to imagine the times were tough before Indian Wells, as that led to the passing of the ways. One thing that I thought was very interesting, especially in light of coming back after the ban, was she said, a lot of people would have just given up at that point. Makes you wonder whether that had actually crossed her mind. But she came back, she got some good matches.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed her in press today. I really liked her comments about not giving herself a pat on the back.
Mm.
You know, she is a champion. She's a player who's won 5 Grand Slam titles. She expects more of herself than to be getting to a quarter-final, playing quite well. And, you know, while she notes improvement, you know, this isn't good enough for Maria Sharapova, and that's becoming a hard thing for her to accept. But equally, it felt a bit more defiant today. It felt a bit more like
the old Maria.
Yeah. Like she feels fit now. She's saying the margins are quite fine, but, you know, doable. I think the improvements will come. She'll start winning some big matches soon. I think this was a really big week for her mentally.
All right, my hot take then is that Pliskova will only go maybe a couple of rounds. She'll, you know, in Rome, and everybody will be like, what were we thinking? I think Maria will go well in Rome. I think she'll go well in Rome, and then it's going to be wide open in Paris.
I'll wait till I see the draw in Rome before I predict how far Sharapova will go, because you just never know. She's going to get early on at the minute. But, yeah, I think she'll be a contender. Now,
the person that I think has flown under the radar, and by that I mean quite literally flown under the radar, is Caroline Garcia.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually had to miss seeing Garcia altogether because I had to come running back for Kyle Edmund's press conference after his win over Djokovic. Yeah, I'm losing track of the days. Yeah, so I missed a chance to see her, but she's pretty much got to this stage largely unnoticed, but in very impressive form.
Yeah, I've also missed her since speaking to her before the tournament started, really. And that's not been a purposeful attack. I think she's playing some brilliant tennis. Just there's been a load of crazy stuff happening, man. It's difficult to keep up. But I think she's playing really well. I think she's another one I look at for the French. I know there's a bit more pressure on her on home turf, but she's a player playing well enough right now to be considered one of the top contenders to win that title. I think she looks solid. She plays and just looks, again, similarly to how we were saying with Pliskova, she looks a player with a bit more belief at the minute, a little more confidence. I think if I was a betting man, which I am, but I probably won't bother betting on this, but I would probably say I'd expect a Pliskova-Garcia final, and I think that would be a really, really good matchup.
Yeah, the reason that we're not covering the fourth member of the band, as it were, is because Kasatkina and Kvitova are still playing. But of course, you know, we have to record this sometime. So
it's very late here.
Yeah, I mean,
you should hear me shouting about the scheduling.
I thought you were going to pull out the thing to have a look at the score, but no.
I am. That's what I'm trying to do. It's just loading slowly. It's over. Kvitova's through.
Oh,
no,
okay.
It's not. Yes, it is. 6-4, 6-love.
6-love?
6-love. And that's happened. That 6-love's happened since we came down here.
Yeah, and I've just realised that I put in for win-lose. No, win only, and they're probably going off to talk to her right now. But anyway,
so
we've got to finish. Yeah, that is going to be a great
good
one.
semi-finals. We're happy with those.
Yeah.
Bertens as well, playing well.
I've got to be honest. I mean, I love both of them. You know, either Garcia or Kvitova, I'd be perfectly happy to go through into the final.
Yeah.
I think we've got a good lineup.
Yeah.
And talking of good lineups, Kyle.
Yeah.
Good heavens above. That we actually went to sit on court to watch the first set, and there was not only was there some breathtaking serve and volleying and that 1-2 punch of his, literally leaving Goffin reeling in the first few games. But I mean, his deftness at the net has improved 100-fold. His backhand we all saw against Djokovic, but my God, he was good today.
Yeah, it was a breathtaking performance, really. I said after the Djokovic match, don't be surprised to see this guy getting to the final. These conditions suit him really, really well. I completely stand by that. It's only going to get tougher now. I mean, okay, beating Djokovic is the toughest thing he probably will have to do this week. But I think by this stage, you've got players who have played a few matches on it, are more used to the condition, are confident themselves. So mentally, you know, Goffin's just come back from injury, wasn't necessarily at his best today, I don't think.
No.
But that should take nothing away from Kyle. And this is exciting times. You know, if he gets to the final, he could be world number 11, I think, which seems pretty absurd when he was at world number 50 at the start of this year.
I know.
Top 20, though, pretty much nailed on, which is fantastic for him. And just what a lift in this week of Andy Murray's bad news as well. Great to hear.
But I mean, even better, I think we're going to have a really tasty quarter-final because we've got Denis Shapovalov, who beat his idol, Milos. But not only that, I mean, he was an absolute diamond in press. Articulate, very respectful, very humble, without humble bragging, if you get what I mean. I think both of them are stars in the making, and I think this is going to be a very, very tasty quarterfinal, but possibly actually the most competitive and best of the lot. I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I've made no secret. I'm a big Shapovalov fan. He's the guy I see, not just on court but off court, as the natural successor to guys like Federer and Nadal. I think he speaks really, really well. He's a really intelligent guy.
Yeah.
This is his worst surface, and yet he's playing some brilliant stuff. Beating Raonic today, 6-4, 6-4. Raonic played well today. It was just a high level. He's playing clutch moments well.
Yeah.
He's a great
it's
player.
not something that he's always done as well. I mean, as a sort of sense of his youngness, at times his shot selection can be a bit iffy. But yeah, today I think he really turned the corner in that respect. Played intelligent, good tennis, spoke so warmly about Milos as well, which was lovely, because I wouldn't say that Milos was particularly old. I think I'd put Milos in that kind of Lost Boys generation, and I think the next gen are really up to give them a bloody nose, but in the nicest possible way, because they're such nice chaps. But anyway, we're getting incredibly strange looks, so I think we're going to leave it there, unless you've got anything else you want to say.
No, I don't think so. I think we're pretty happy. It's going to be a good day Friday.
I think it's going to be a great day.
Not overly enthused about the start, admittedly, but you never know. Anderson and Lajovic, I'm backing you to make that match of the day after all. I did roll my eyes quite firmly there.
I don't know how you actually said that and kept a straight face. You have, of course, been listening to Ros Satar from Britwatch Sports.
And George Bellshaw from metro.co.uk.